But let's just go through, oh, well, I guess we went through, but let's just go through and introduce ourselves, even though we were up there.
Michael Labossiere from the city's Ocean Forestry, Reserve.
Sarah Labossiere, and I'm representing SouthCoast Bikeway Lines.
Tomawski, representing SouthCoast.
Tom Richardson, founder and executive producer of Explore New England.
Me? Michael and Borden and Marina. Okay. So, Tom, the first question's for you. I was wondering, how do you choose which towns or cities to feature for the show? How do you come to it?
Yeah, that's it. It's hard to believe we filmed all that stuff.
Yeah, I was there. Some of it.
Incredible. Well, it happens a variety of ways, and most of it's organic, because we're a small company, and, so I mean, a lot of times it's like what I'm interested in, a place that, I'm from New England, I live in Mattapoisett, grew up in New England, so I've seen a lot of New England, well, as I was growing up, but there's still so many places I haven't, explored. So a lot of times it's like just personal interest, places I've been curious about, and I'll start reaching out. And then sometimes it's a group will approach me and say, hey, would you want to come up here and cover this great event we're doing, and then I build an episode around that. But a lot of times it's also I want to get a good mix of geography. Like I don't want to have everything happen in northern Maine. I want to during the season I want to try to cover different parts of New England. So we'll do a couple in Maine, a couple in New Hampshire, and then I want to have some more urban areas as well. And that wasn't something that was sort of a surprise too. When I started exploring New England, I kind of was in the mindset that I would just do it all. It would all be like really, like places like northern Maine, that sort of thing. But then we did a show on our first season in New Bedford, and uncovered a lot of really surprising elements, and found it really interesting. There's a lot of history, obviously, to weave in with places that are urban, and a lot of recently success stories on bringing back nature and making it more accessible to people that are interested in recreating in those areas. And so Fall River being down the road, I have my brother-in-law's from Fall River. He grew up there, and we started talking, and he mentioned Coppercut Woods, and I hiked there with my family. I've done a lot of fishing. Fishing is like my passion, so I fished in the area before with that guy Brian Patterson you saw on the show. So I knew a little bit about it, but I wanted to discover a little bit more, so I reached out and got in touch with you, and that one thing led to another. We got the ball rolling, and suddenly we're brainstorming and meeting. You're introducing me to all these different people that helped out, and they're the experts in the show, obviously, and they're taking me around and teaching me how to enjoy Fall River and its natural assets. So that's how long story, but that's how that came about.
Was there anything surprising, like something particularly surprising?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the fun part of producing the show, that I learn as much as the audience does in many cases. I had a little bit of a head start, because I did a little research, but I'm always finding incredible things about it. Like with Mike, we were paddling, and I didn't know all the different fish species that were in the pond. I didn't know that it was it was once the largest natural water body in Massachusetts. That blew my mind when I found that out. The whole Quikasham River system. How many times have I driven down 195 back and forth and wondered what is that water there? What is that all about? And I didn't realize that was the whole foundation of Fall River's industrial era, and it's just unbelievable. There was a waterfall there. Anyway, so I mean, there's just countless things that I learn every time. So yeah.
So the next question I'm going to pose to John. So how do you think Fall River can improve its recreational infrastructure and attract more outdoors people to the city?
We can probably hold some events with various organizations in the area, reaching out to leadership of those organizations, and just have public events and get people to show up so they can see what's out there.
So kind of like introducing people to it, because I think that's what for me, as somebody who doesn't, I've been to the picture and the rail trail, of course I know how to walk and whatnot, but like something like going to the woods, it is definitely, a little intimidating. So maybe perhaps, going to the experts, going to organizations and asking them to kind of help to do outreach.
Yeah, like on the weekends, just hold events at the time of day where a lot of people show up, like a Sunday midday, Saturday or Sunday midday.
And so I would think too, because there's obviously, we have these places and they are, activities in and of themselves, but it's also the transportation aspect, how do people get to them? And so do you think that, like, I know that the bio reserve has, parking areas, but do you think that that access to those places then needs to be improved, or?
So with the city involved, you've got pretty much area tours, and you can come in from a lot of different areas to the reserve. The headquarters area, you've got Fall River, you get in from Dartmouth, you get in from pretty much any town in this whole area, just so there's dozens of entrances.
Yeah.
You just have to look on the map. But the places where you want to hold events, you probably want to do that with the main headquarters of the state forest, because that's where most parking from the parking area. But I believe there's plans to start parking.
Well, so you're mentioning, so the DCR has had the state forest headquarters for a number of years. And that's a facility open to the public, rest areas, a large parking area, it's got a pavilion. So they're really equipped, and they have, whether it's the Friends of the Freetown Forest, the Freetown 50 bike race that John was talking about. And believe it or not, they used to have dog sled races. When it used to stop. So the bio reserve is about 16,000 acres now. So when we think about Fall River and hosting, bio reserve events, we don't have that same sort of scale in the southern part of the bio reserve. We are, in the next couple of years, we'll be opening up the Discovery Center, the bio reserve Discovery Center. That's environmental education primarily, but I think we'll also act as a kind of a gateway for visitors, especially people who are coming for the first time, a place they can get oriented, they can figure out how to use the bio because it's actually so large, it's really daunting. But I think and there are a lot of roads, but there's a lot of disrepair in those roads. So it's a big area, it's got a lot of perimeter, and a lot of roads coming in, but not all roads need to be good things. Some of them are really, some of them are rough. So, it's a love-hate relationship with road maintenance because, in some respects, well, you certainly want people to be able to get to places and enjoy the bio reserve, with some really good access. There are people who say that too much good access brings in, the wrong problems, maybe trash and things like that. But basically, if we're going to really get on the map as a destination for the bio reserve, and there's a lot of outdoor features in the city, but the bio reserve itself, we kind of got to reconcile what is the right kind of access. Do we have the right support for it, and that sort of remains to be seen.
Welcome to our club.
Yeah, absolutely. And switching over to the waterfront, I feel like we're like woods and water here. I love it. I don't know where I am in the middle, but that's cool. I'm air, apparently. So speaking to the waterfront, and things that we need there to kind of promote recreational tourism, is there anything that comes to mind of ways in which, in order for us to really grow as a waterfront destination?
No, I'm sure we can go chime in. One of the things that we've always discussed is the continuity between, where the battleship starts down on Water Street through the Narrows, through that center, and then down 30th Street where we are. Just having crosswalks or sidewalks on both sides of the roads, crosswalks, things like that to help people navigate from the battleship, which is where water tourists are ending up on the waterfront, and then hoping that they come down towards the Ferry Street area, starting with, restaurants at the top of Ferry Street all the way down to restaurants at the bottom of Ferry Street. So that would be our goal, and that would connect, if you have the boardwalk down to the sailing that we have, just more continuity there, it would be great.
I mean, the waterfront's evolved an awful lot in 20 years, and we still have the same sign on 195 that says waterfront attractions. It doesn't list the Narrows, it doesn't list the 2 breweries that are down there, it doesn't list Stubby's. It's the same sign going east and west on 195. It says waterfront attractions, and you know, to make this exist, it's gotta be people coming from out of town and spending money, and then they start sniffing around, and then they learn what's kind of the hidden secret about the city and the quality of life. And then I think, you know, woods and water, the people that visit the woods should have some information about the water, and the people that are on the water should have some information about the woods, because the fact of the matter is, they're both enjoying it for very similar reasons, it's just different types. And then the last thing, you mentioned the roads to get to the back, it's a difficult thing, because you don't want to overdo it, and then it kind of takes it out of its natural state. But it goes to curb appeal, in the sense that someone doesn't want to replace their tire to get up there.
Part of the adventure.
And if you look, you know, there was recently a study that the number one reason people come to the city of Fall River is the restaurants. And I think second to that on the waterfront would be what we've done at Ferry Street, certainly the Battleship and Narrow Center. If you come to the Battleship, and you come off the highway, first thing you see is graffiti on the new bridge. Come down the hill, the fence is for the Battleship parking, it's built to the edge of the road, the weeds are all overgrown, looks terrible. So you get this anchor that's been bringing in tens of thousands of visitors a year, and their impression is a carousel that's never clear when it's open or not open. You got graffiti, you got weeds on a fence. And the same goes from the Narrows, which is a huge draw for out of town. But you got the mill up on the right-hand side, there's graffiti all over it. And so how does that out-of-town visitor feel comfortable to walk up the street to Columbia Street or Saugs, or walk towards where we are? It's curb appeal. And I think we have to emphasize that. And there's ordinances on the books to go after these property owners. Right there, the gates of the city looks beautiful. And the gas company next door is graffiti all over the building. So you bring these people in for the festivals at the gates, and they look to the left, and they're seeing New York style graffiti. And the same at the Narrows. So I think a lot of what this is about is changing the image of the city. And I think the current administration has done an excellent job of that, and certainly have to change the image of the city in ways more than what we're here talking about. But it's about curb appeal to me, and connecting the dots between what's up there from the biking and the top-up, and then what's on the waterfront.
Well, certainly the people that are at the Marina, I mean, curb appeal, I'm sure makes a big difference to them, if you have enough money to have a boat and a slip and whatnot, but do you think that do they just stay right there, or do they actually, you think, go out into the city?
Oh, no, they go.
Yeah, they go.
They walk to Columbia
up
Street.
to Saugus, they walk to the little bakery on the corner.
Down the boardwalk.
But a lot of them, you know, our most difficult task is to get somebody from the outside to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Once they've come down and they've been here for a while, they love it. And they love it, but it's getting them over that curb. And when they come off the highway, the first thing, there's no signage for one. So you come off the highway, you can see the top of the battleship. You don't really know where the Narrows is, you kind of know. You know, GPS makes it a little easier, but there's not a consistent
First impression is that to me.
So, yeah, so I think curb appeal is when that person does come down from the Route 24 corridor and says, I'm gonna go to Fall River instead of driving to Newport, and they drive in, and I know buildings are vacant, but if they don't have graffiti all over them, it has a different feel to it. They feel more comfortable to walk around.
Yep.
Because a lot of times on
not only give the appearance of, but have it be safe and people want to walk, so.
I mean, we've come a very, very long way.
Oh,
But I think the biggest thing for me, if you ask me, is the connectivity for both assets and then the curb appeal. Who's not money?
So this question's actually for anybody to answer, and also for anybody out there. How can Fall River reach out to the recreational community to make people more aware of its outdoor opportunities? What are some opportunities that we should explore?
I was thinking about that on my way here, and it's something as simple as brochures. You know, we have customers who walk through the Marina or where restaurants who may not even know there's a bike path or mountain biking available on the other side of the city, and, you know, vice versa, you know, restaurants on the water. I mean, you go to tourist destinations like Newport or Providence, and you walk into a restaurant, and you have pamphlets of what's happening in the city. I mean, it's simple, but I think it works, because it still exists, right?
I mean, absolutely, I mean, we definitely, try to do that, and I think we give you some for your restaurant as well, and trying to get, I think that's important, just, people still, I mean, the internet is great, and our website, we try to do a good job, but people like to have that, and it keeps it top of mind, so, but yeah, having one just for recreation, I mean, I'd love to do that, but right now we have the wrap card that I put on everybody's, chair, and, obviously, if anybody sees anything that you think that we should have on the website, always looking for new suggestions.
I'm a big proponent of visual. I like what our waterfront friends said about the waterfront attractions and that sort of thing. But I like what you've done, the city has done with advertising the music in the parks at the parks and having signs and banners out so that people can see them as they drive along and throughout the day. You know, like you said, social media is great, but don't always catch everything. They've got those algorithms figured out. So the banners, and I would love to have not just Fall River, but all around, like have central locations where people can know that they can go to see what's going on. You know, we have some nice bulletin boards in Government Center, but what about when it's closed? So where can we have more centralized promotion for what's going on in the city?
Absolutely, I agree with that as well. I mean, I do have a nice little kiosk, but it's in the carousel building, and obviously they're closed in the winter, so it just sits there and you can't get it. So, but yeah, that's great for me. Yeah.
So, I would like to add a third C. Mike and Nicole talked about connections, and they talked about curb appeal, which are totally exactly right. The third one would be collaborations, and that's my third C. But, so for example, Appalachian Mountain Club, just when the pandemic started, we invited Appalachian Mountain Club to the Bikeway, and all of a sudden, our connections blew up because, first of all, it was at a time when there weren't, people were looking for another option. And the Southeastern Mass chapter of AMC, they were having free walks, and 20, 30 people would come up from Boston and the Cape and Providence that were coming in. And so there's a collaboration that for a little effort on our behalf, they opened up a whole new network, and the folks go on a 2-3 hour walk, and then it's lunchtime. And so, like, another collaboration would be whether we have some kind of promotion or some kind of connection to get people to, because they would ask, where can we go? And you just, head down, head east head west from the Bikeway, and there's no shortage of places. So we could get better at that. Maybe we have flyers. Maybe we have hike and hiking trail.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not right.
I can come up with a name that's not wrong. I know that's something I like that. That is something over here, even with culinary, with just regular attractions, it's the cross promotion of things. I mean, there are definitely draws that people have their own audiences, but if those places can kind of find find places that are like-minded, like I like to always, when I think about that, like the Historical Society, Lafayette, Durfee, those are two that are perfect for each other, because they, you know, if you're interested in one, chances are you're probably interested in the other. Or even the battleship, and Lafayette, Durfee, if somebody was interested in military history, so it's about drawing those connections between places, but if you can keep, it's about keeping the visitor in the city for as long as possible, giving them more things to do. You don't want them to get right back onto the highway when they're done.
Well, and as a matter of fact, I heard Mike Benavides say one of the things he hears most often when people leaving the shop is like, what's next? Where can I go next? It's a natural thing.
Yes.
You know, I'll just chime in a little bit here as sort of an outsider from Mount Boys. But again, like, you know, getting back to the curb appeal, I think that's really a huge thing to really facilitate. You know, obviously the waterfront is just an enormous asset for Fall River, and that you know, keep improving that and keep improving the connectivity between the waterfront and the downtown area. Just make it easy for people to go between the two places and not feel threatened or nervous, because it's you know, unfortunately it's that reputation that you have to overcome, and you have to just do it one visitor at a time. You just have to, you know, keep beautifying the downtown area and putting more green spaces, even if it's a little small micro park or something, or just new trees, and that's good for a bunch of different reasons. You know, not just beauty. It's, you know, serves environmentally, you know, positive things. Yeah, so, I mean, just, you know, I know it's money, you know, it's not money, so, unfortunately, but, I mean, I think if you make it look nice and comfortable and welcoming, and again, facilitate it for the walker who's gonna go between the waterfront, or maybe pulls up in a cruising yacht or something like that, and comes up, and, you know, it's, oh, I can dock here, and there's restaurants, I can just walk up and little shops. So it's just, you know, you have to just make it inviting.
Yes.
Saw in the paper today or yesterday about the city's hiring a planner. Is this information gonna get funneled, all the things that were said here today gonna get funneled to that company or person somehow?
Stand tech, well, I'm not involved with that process, but I did read in that same article that they are doing a lot of public outreach, because that company is really known for that. So there would be like times for public input, and I think these types of things can certainly be, I mean, if not brought up by the people who go to those sessions, but I mean, I'm happy to not only take this video and the notes and provide that to the development authority so that they can have all that information, because these are all very important things that should not only just be discussed here, but passed along to those people who are making those decisions.
So I'm going to speak as a avid mountain biker, someone that likes to travel, and I'll drive 24 hours, go and ride bikes, spend a couple days, and come back. I think a big thing is exactly what a bunch of us have talked about, curb appeal. And when someone comes in and says, hey, let's go for a mountain bike ride, I can't send them somewhere with a bunch of bicycles on the back of their vehicle when that's their first impression.
Yeah.
And they roll through a street and they say, yeah, sorry, I can't park here, and I'm not leaving bikes on the back. Whether they're locked onto a bike rack or not, I'm not leaving them here because of curb appeal. And the connectivity from bioreserve to restaurants to waterfront needs to be more intertwined and an easy way for people to feel like they can get there that's very well signed and very deliberate as to here's where you're going. Another cool thing, I like the idea of these. But in key locations, maybe at the waterfront, there's a big, huge placard with a QR code that you just scan, and it tells you everything that's right around you, and then I can zip into it, and I can look and say, okay, what other activities are there? Oh, cool, there's a bioreserve, and I can link right to that, or another restaurant, or ice cream, or your options are endless, right? And then from the bioreserve, you know, when we pull up in a town to ride bikes, it's always, where's the closest place to get food or coffee, and it's not much money, but at least somebody's dropping an extra couple bucks on a cup of coffee or a sandwich or an ice cream that we didn't have before. So if we can capitalize on people staying in our community and really working the infrastructure, but curb appeal is the first thing.
Yeah.
I'll hit it from that just as a mountain biker, who loves to travel and go ride fun places, yeah, curb would be huge.
And Fall River's so well positioned in terms of like its location.
Oh, yeah.
You've got all the greater Boston people and you've got the Providence people and it's right there. It's a day trip ability that, you know, you really gotta make a mode and say, you know, hey, just hop down the highway, you know, spend a day and go biking or paddling and fishing and then, hey, go have a nice meal, go to a brew pub, you know, and then relax and go shopping a little bit. I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah, actually, just this past summer, we added a recreation itinerary to, it is light recreation, obviously, because I don't know if one, you know, you're putting it out to just the general public, you don't want to send people out to the woods unsupervised. But a recreation itinerary was off the Take 5 Off 195 campaign, which does acknowledge that we are not quite yet a destination in and of ourselves, but you can take 5, take a break on your way somewhere else, take a break on the way to the Cape, spend a few hours, you know, spend money hopefully, and then if you want to get back on the road, we understand that, because we know we only have one hotel, and that's, you know, okay, but you'll come back. That's what we need to, how do we get repeat visitors, and how do we also work to start taking away the seasonality, because we don't want to just have people here in the summertime, we want to have people here all year round, so how do we continue to pay for that as well, but that's good. Anybody else?
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's a couple things that occurred to me. So I think the curb appeal is definitely, you know, one I think on the forefront of people's minds. Viva seems to do a really good job, especially for visitors, right? If you're a visitor, you run across that website, you know what you can do. There's a bit of, if you build it, they will come as well. I think Fall River is really well positioned for these recreational opportunities. There's a ton of empty storefront space. And there's an opportunity, and I don't know if it comes, like where, I don't know where the synergy is, if it comes from administration, but incentivizing recreational-based businesses to take up those storefronts. Because if I'm getting off the boat or I'm getting off the highway and I look and see, oh, there's bike rentals, oh, there's kayak rentals, oh, there's, you know, people doing expeditions up to the bioreserve and the transportation and all that. That's going to be self-propelling. In terms of, you know, Fall River having that recreational sort of bent to it, if you will. And I also think reaching out to the underserved communities. I mean, I don't know the best way to do that. I don't know if that's a big piece of what Viva does, but doing that, there's so many around. I mean, there's probably so many places in Fall River that don't know what recreational opportunities do. And bringing that to them, and then bringing in organizations that bring that to them. Okay, maybe they're not directly interfacing with the visitors that we want to see that, and that snowball effect, but they might see that happen, and then see that sort of thing happening. And, you know, it's hard in terms of like planting trees and just starting that. I think you see progress like that, and you're like, oh, what's happening here? Anytime I see a new restaurant, and you see the windows all taped up, and you know something's going on in there, but you don't know quite what it is, you keep checking back, and you keep checking back until it opens up, and then you see, you know, it's a great restaurant. So having, I think Fall River's sort of in that right now, where it's sort of wrapped up, you know what I mean, and waiting for the unveiling.
Oh, I like that analogy, I might use that. I will say, you know, to your point, one of the best things I experienced has been summer evenings in the park, of going to people's parks. I've seen people go to parks they never, you know, they're from the north end, they've never been to a park in the south end. It's just a small place, but it's you know, you tend to stay insular. And then I've seen people make friends, like who are like, hey, I've been to every one of them. Oh, hey, you were at the last one. Oh, hey, you were at the last one. And then also having the trustees of reservations there. City kids learning about, you know, butterfly wings and these are, and not only like stuff like that that's just pretty that, you know, we love, but these are the types of plants that are in this park that you live right next to, and these are the type of birds that fly around Fall River, and seeing that and instilling that wonder has been really great. And I know they worked with the Narrows last year to get a bus to take people out to the reservation. That was actually one of the questions that we had here, which we can totally talk about now, about how do we, I mean, it's not only important for me to make sure that people from outside come and experience all the recreation, but how do we provide more equitable access for everybody who lives here? Because, I mean, I think it's one thing to tell the story to people outside the city, but there are people who never even know, they're like, what's the quickest River rail trail, which to me is like, I mean, it's right next to Walmart, you know, like, I know you must know Walmart, you know, but it's like, they just don't know. So how, you know, and I think a lot of that comes from working with groups, but does anybody have any thoughts on, sorry, about how do we like provide more active access?
Well, I was thinking about it when we were talking about connections and roads through the fire reserve and, the bus line, it's wonderful right now that there's a pilot program there. It's free bus fare either, through July and also on Sundays. That's a big thing because that's when people have more time to get out there. And so if you're someone that doesn't own a vehicle by choice or just because you can't afford it, then, and you're riding the bus, you need to be able to have a stop that's close to these recreational areas that you want to go to. So that's one thing. As was mentioned, some of the roads, if you want to go for a hike in the forest, some of the roads you can't access, even by a bus or, and not so great by a car. So, some of them, yes. So, I think bicycles are a great way. And so to encourage people, and, you know, I like to emphasize that bicycles are, we might think in a privileged worldview that you're riding your bike down the street to go to a park for a picnic lunch on a Sunday, but there are people that use their bicycles to commute to work, to school, to errands, and then so bike lanes and separated and protected shared use paths are very important for those people, especially within the city. So we're talking about residents, and if they have a bicycle in the downtown area and they want to get to the Bioreserve, how are they going to get there? We have gotten the Cushan River Railroad extended to the Westport line, so that's great. But continuing it further and finding ways, bicycle rentals were mentioned, that's great. I think that when I see bike rental place or canoe or kayak rental, I know there's something there, as you mentioned, and that's exactly, it's like, I don't know where it is, but I want to find out. And so having things like that, bike shops, bike repairs, we have some mobile bike repair shops that are in our area, and so that's a way to get people into the places where they want to go.
I will tell you, when I was doing the website, I wanted to include recreational stores at the recreation, and I had to like struggle to come up with 6. And 2 of those are Ace Harbors. So, I mean, just to show you that there's no place to get, you have to go to Swansea if you want to go to Bike Works. I mean, so there is a big hole there, because, so not even having a place where you can buy those things, just kind of, to me, if I wasn't from here and I didn't know that there are people who want you to take advantage of recreation, I would think, well, they don't really care. I mean,
Yeah, you gotta make it easy for people, you know, you really do, especially beginners, you gotta hold them by the hand and say, here's your kayak now, here you go, you know, and ideally even have a guide, someone who can take them out there and show them that here.
Tom just hit on 2 of the things I was thinking to say about that for hiking trails, establishing routes that are mapped and easily accessible in short duration and distance is a great idea. And then for the people that have never been hiking in the woods, extra signage, so that they know it and they get used to seeing the names of those trails, and then they can come back and try it again. They can go a little further. But it's hard if you've never had that exposure, then it's useful to see it.
I will say that I'm working with Sarah currently on biking blogs where she's talking about different routes that you can take, because that's, again, if you give somebody an itinerary, if you give them ideas, they're more likely to take it than just say, hey, come to Fall River and see what we got, okay, you know? So, and then I'm going to be working with some people also that but walking trails, so just finding ideas, so if anybody wants to do a boating blog or something, yes, ma'am.
I like to reflect how your film showed the beautiful green strip that is being worked on along 79 and how it will make it safer for people to walk and bike, etc. I'm hearing rumors that this talk about maybe buildings along that strip, and I hope it's not true. Because that would take away a lot of safety and
I'm not working on that project specifically, but I do know that there are, I think 2 to 3 areas that are gonna be, created that people can walk through, because the big part of taking down those spaghetti, roads was so that people from the neighborhoods could now get to the waterfront, because that's obviously,
But think of the anti-beauty of that area with the building being struck, you know, along that strip.
yeah.
It would be not working towards what we all are trying to do.
No, absolutely, and to Mr. Nardi's point earlier, when that company does, when Stantec does come down and does the public listening sessions, I think that's a perfect time for people to voice those concerns. I do know that the event is Massachusetts Department of Transportation, so, they're going to be the ones who, I think, ultimately have the decision, but that's when we have events like this, when we have public sessions, coming out and voicing your opinion is absolutely the best thing that we can do, just to let them know what we want, because if we stay silent, then they won't know, so.
I'm just gonna add one thing about sharing the information. I think kudos to Patty for putting this together. It takes a ton of coordination to do something like this, so well done. But I think something like this should be shown in every school in the city. You know, these kids are the next generation. Have they tried mountain biking? Have they tried hiking? Have they been on a sailboat? Do they know what a sailboat looks like? So to put that in the hands of the next generation, and then for them to show an interest, and to go home and say, hey mom, or dad, or grandma, or papa, or whoever, did you know this existed? Do you know that we can go on the battleship? Because maybe no one has even educated them about that at home. So I think that next generation is very important to educate them on what's in the city, because they're gonna be saving before we know it. You know, to get them involved in these activities that we're all trying to bring to the city now, I think is what's important.
Yeah, I mean, what Chris Nardi's doing down at the rec sale, it's just unbelievable.
I wanted to-
When I'm like filming with them, it's just incredible just how engaged and animated and excited these kids are. And a lot of them, you know, they live right near the water, but they don't have a way to get there. You know, they're just providing it. But apply that to kayaking, apply that to fishing, apply that to, you know, to hiking and biking. You know, maybe get these kids out there, because they're gonna be,
Field trips.
yeah, they're gonna become stewards of the environment, of the city. They're gonna be invested in it, and they're gonna wanna treat it right, and they're gonna be proud of it. So, you know, the more you can get the kids out there, the better you are.
I'm sort of sonnet, but I answered this on social media, which I'm older, so I'm not really into social media. But I came and I found out a lot today that I'm really happy about. But I also went to BCC. Do you ever, is that a resource of kids that you could use, or people, or even a physical place that you could use to put out information? I
Oh,
know
absolutely.
that schools would want to work really hard with it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a process for posting things there and whatnot, but I work with several different parts, and obviously, you know, an academic institution has many different, parts of it. I work with the entrepreneurs, but there is the whole sustainability club that went back in my previous life. I worked in a nonprofit that had to do with more outdoor stewardship. And they used to have a great sustainability fair there. So, I mean, that's definitely something to,
When you ask, what?
Oh, absolutely.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting is, I have 4 kids, and so one of them, married a Dutch guy. And when he came here to visit, he beelined it to the Dutch Coast. It was freezing out. I couldn't believe he brought his kids in the middle of winter over there. And, they had a very fun time. But when I went back over there recently, if anyone knows me, they have the water river, the water canal, the water, and in Rotterdam, they have a water tax.
Yes, water taxi.
Not that I think it's the most amazing thing. I don't even know if you have it in Boston, but you do have another side to the city that, and I know it has money and laws and all that, but that is, I think that is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah.
Because now you've got, it's easy to take your bike on a little tram. And over there, it seemed like, okay, it seemed like there were so many laws that it would be hard for us to even put foot on someone's taxi boat. But over there, like, it didn't matter if there was this much space between the dog and the bike, you just go.
Yeah.
It's just not a business society.
so much, but I think one of the things I wanted to ask, because I think invitation is one of the sincerest forms of flattery, and, when I was building the website for the Fall River, I looked at certain places that were similar to us, like, Destination Salem, Seafood. So I wanted to ask the members of the panel if there are places, destinations, that you think do a really great job of how they market their natural assets, whether it be waterfront, whether it be, woods. If there's a place that you're like, they've really got it down, they got my attention.
Well, Maine,
I know, you mentioned it.
Well, but that's like their thing, so that from the very state level, they have a very robust, tourism department that focuses, puts a lot of money into promoting the outdoor, recreational activities in different communities around the state, so there's a lot of funds that get funneled to these individual places, and we work with them, because of that. So I guess Maine as a whole, but that's a recreational state, very different. Another urban, a similar urban, like New London, I used to host a boating show, so we filmed down there. They did a great job of sort of renovating their waterfront, making public piers accessible to larger boats, putting in a big mooring field, that sort of thing. And they have marinas, so it doesn't compete with them. So, but it works really well. And then they have events down on the water that brings these boaters in from different, all over the place, really. People, boaters will stop as they go up and down the coast, So I think they did a nice job with, sort of reconfiguring their waterfront. So, might go check out what they did.
I have two locations that one I visited this summer and one was a few summers ago, but I like to follow on the East Coast Greenway, which is 3,000 miles, so job security, and I will do that. And this summer I was in Cary, North Carolina, and I just was so struck with how much investment they put into their outdoor recreation, and related to how I felt about Hartford, Connecticut, the wayfinding was fabulous, because I was in a place I had never been before. I was on my bike alone, and I had to get from point A to point B. I had a destination. I wanted to go somewhere, and just the wayfinding was just fabulous in those two places, and that makes a big difference to me when I am in an area like a city that there's so many options of which way to go, and how do you know what's where.
Are there any places, I know we talked about, you mentioned something to me about, a city that's in Coolies, that you're like, around the holidays.
Oh, in South Dartmouth, yeah.
South Dartmouth. But I mean, there's even places like that that do it, like, that are really showcasing their waterfront in a time of year that is not typical for people who want to the waterfront. Okay, so one of the things I did want to ask, because when you talk about, when we kind of touched on it, but when we talk about, bringing more tourists to protected areas, there's obviously, a balance there, like you said, and Mike, this one is specifically for you. So what are some of the stewardship obstacles to recreational tourism that specifically pertain to our area? I know we covered the roads, but.
Stewardship.
Yeah.
Curb appeal, okay. The Fire Reserve is vast. We have 5 environmental police positions in people which are filled, and there's a lot of supervision gaps where we, with the cost of trash disposal and some issues like that. In the last 24 hours, there's just this guerrilla dumping situation that really reflected, and my crew, I give loads of credit to, we try to stay on top of it. We try to, if it hits the ground, we try to pick it up before it becomes, mappable, before it's a monument out there, because it speaks to the security. People come out to enjoy the place and they see, different, dumpings of different kinds. It kind of looks like, does this place not have self-respect? What is this place worth? Do they not care? So we really try to want to stay on top of that. So that's a stewardship issue. For question. So, you know, when I think of deep forest stewardship, I'm thinking of resilient forests and things like that, which really aren't the topic of this forum. But I think I'm going to answer another question that was the wayfinding program. About 100 years ago, when our kids were small, we took them up to Nova Scotia. It was one of the first experiences we had of traveling, and I was struck by their wayfinding because it seemed like Nova Scotia was color-coded. It was amazing. Like, they had a very good understanding of their identity, so this coast was a certain color, this coast was a certain color. They had an understanding of their identity. They did a good job at interpreting it. And so you could get off the ferry and just sort of see at a glance the whole broad landscape of what was there. You know, if it was something nautical, it was over here. If it was something historical, it was over here. I think if Fall River approached it from that, an understanding of itself, from Cook Pond to whatever's in the north end. I mean, there's and the park system. It's all an integrated network. But if we have a way to whether that's on our website, similar to the way Buzzards Bay Coalition does it. One missing element is kind of a concierge person, kind of a system where a person can come into the city and sort of get the lay of the land quickly, and then with the kind of wayfinding that it's possible to do it safely and connect, make the connections. I think waterfront to the reservation is a brilliant connection, but it kind of start-y-starty, right? I mean, you can come up the hill, and then you get to this area and it's kind of busy. You get onto the rail trail, and then you get to Route 6, and like, now what do I do? You know? So I think transportation. Well, yeah, to get to the other side of Fall River, you have to go to West Oregon because it's so there's going to be a really good transportation plan.
Yes.
And that will help a lot too. And I heard the comment about getting people from the city out here. Because I've heard that before. The people in the city, let's think about that. We're not just trying to get people from outside the city. And sort of, again, with stewardship, finding safe ways to get people from point A to point B, to get them to enjoy.
And I just had one more question, and I'm going to pose this to my waterfront here. I think, one of the things that I had, I don't think people always recognize the impact that tourism has on the local economy. And so, I just wanted to see if you could speak a little bit about, being that your businesses are in the water, they attract an awful lot of tourists, one of them being destinations, the impact that you think, in your opinion, the economic and social impacts that recreational tourism has on the local community, specifically Fall River.
Well, I mean, to state it simply, we have customers that are coming from all over and they're spending money in Fall River.
Yeah.
To put it in simple terms, right? Either walking to restaurants, they're spending money in the restaurant, whether it's ours or somebody else, they're spending money in Fall River. And that's what we want tourists to do, right?
Yeah.
Not only explore, but there is an economical piece to it because
I think there's a balance, and you brought it up, and I've seen the studies, I can't cite them, I know what they are, but one of the things that's come up over the last 10 years was the amount of money that's in Fall River that leaves on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And anybody that's been out to dinner in different venues, look across like, oh, that guy's from Fall River. And I think that's a valid point. It's not just the money from the outside, it's also keeping the money from here within. And when you keep the Fall River right here, oftentimes they have their friend from Somerset or Dartmouth or so forth that comes down and visits them. And that kind of goes a long way in changing the perception and cultivating that the city is it isn't. It's not the old, dumping ground for immigrants and textiles. No, it's reviving itself with, not purely an industry, but all these different amenities. I would just add your point of people dumping in the reservation and piggyback on my wife's. You get these kids in some of these tough schools, they don't even know that's up there. And then they see that that's up there, they're gonna internally develop their respect for it.
Yeah.
And not in the immediate future, but long term, that'll help when Holly see just going up to the industrial park and get rid of that little couch or that washing machine.
Mike, you're absolutely right, and that's the idea of the Bikeway Discovery Center, is to do that. It's gonna take a generation or two to reverse, like, you and I grew up in a city where the reservation was, you didn't go out there. I mean, literally, for 100 years, that was a place you couldn't go. And then this is gonna change, and we've got a generation or two to sort of catch up with that change. Other communities, whether they have a national park or whatever, that are more oriented toward the outdoors, we're not necessarily a community that's oriented to the outdoors. We've got to cultivate that. One thing I want to mention, we're talking about collaborations. Mass Audubon, trustees of reservations, not so much these days the Lloyd Center, but Green Futures. There are a lot of nonprofits, and this is the role of nonprofits, because I don't think the city itself necessarily is equipped to do this well. And it's kind of ironic that there's nonprofits which are based in Boston and other areas, but they want to come to the urban areas right now. This is a place they want to be, because and it's not just virtue signaling, but their mission is to grow this constituent. And sometimes it takes a week. We have these great partnerships with these nonprofits, and they're doing some, and they could do more if we understood better how to tap that.
Yes.
And it's not just helping to educate and to sort of integrate our children, even adults, bring them up to the bars there. But they're looking to spend money in the cities to help with some of the urban projects and the environmental projects, whether it's green infrastructure, park and things like that. And I think we could get better at forming relationships with these nonprofits. We're here, and we really like your expertise, and we would really benefit from it.
I will say that's one of the reasons I also wanted to have this event, not only because I wanted everybody to have a chance to see this and to have this conversation. I did invite a ton of people from different departments in the Commonwealth and the director of the new Office of Outdoor Recreation, because I want, even though I knew they probably weren't going to come, and maybe I wouldn't go up to Boston on Wednesday night either, but for them to know that Fall River is doing this, that we're interested, that we're having this event, and I will follow up with them, and just like the more that people can hear Fall River in a good way is really what I want. I mean, they're all small steps, but just like the gentleman from, oh my God, I just saw, he was like so delighted that Fall River is thinking about this. He really was. And then there's a grant that's out right now that I know that we're looking into, no, not me, but I used the general term, but the city's looking into putting in an application for recreational tourism for a grant, because the state is, to your point, Mike, the state really does want there to be more opportunities, not just in like Central Mass or Shears or whatnot.
I want to add to that, not just nonprofit collaboration, but between municipalities and between state departments, and it's very important. So SouthCoast Bikeway is a 50-mile route from Swansea to Wareham. We are an alliance of individual bike ped routes along that 50-mile strip. Now we're trying to make the route as protected as possible for cyclists and for pedestrians. But we're working within different municipalities, and so when one municipality, like Fall River, it'd be wonderful if they could reach out to Westport, who is putting in a mass affairs grant this year, and they could write some letters of support, get us across Route 6, so that we can get to the Bible Center, and we can get to Dartmouth, and get to New Bedford that way, and they can come here. So, cross collaboration would be really helpful regionally and statewide.
Well, that's all the questions I have. If anybody else would like to say something, and please feel free, or you can stick around afterward. But I just want to thank everybody here. All of you made that episode what it was, and I love watching it every time. And this conversation was great, and thank you for coming. And stay tuned. And if you think of anything else, go to vivafallriver@gmail.com. Please feel free to send comments. kudos. I wish you all a good evening. Thank you so much.